Hello there friends, and welcome to this first official episode of this channel. Today I will talk about when I became diabetic, how that was, what that meant, and my thoughts at that time. So let's start. I was 16 years old and it was Christmas, one of my happiest Christmases ever. I had an older girlfriend at that time and we had the most wonderful time together. Just eating, enjoying each other. That was every day. That Christmas was just so wonderful. But suddenly I started to lose a lot of weight. 10 kilos to be exact in, I don't know, maybe 10 days. Could even see my cheekbones. I also needed to pee a lot more, like all the time, and it felt like no matter how much liquid I took in, I just needed to pee, and I was just thirsty, and it felt like something was up. I called my mom and that yeah, diabetes. It was a shock, of course. Didn't really think so much about that, but it continued, and okay, I need to go to the doctor. So I went with my parents to the doctor and they measured my blood sugar and it was extremely high. In Norway we measure in millimoles, so it was 20 millimoles at that time. So they also said that I'm most likely diabetic. We needed to go to the hospital. And on the way to the hospital, we thought I need some food, of course, and I got some buns, I got a liter of milk, which was not the smartest in this situation right here. So my blood sugar went from 20 millimoles to around 40 millimoles. I didn't know anything about this disease at that time, just a little bit because my grandfather had it. And my parents also most likely didn't know, or else they wouldn't have given me milk and buns. So when I came to the hospital, my blood sugar was really dangerously high. And I remember they connected me to all types of machines, some very painful ones that needed to go through the vein here, and I still have maybe you see it, the blue spot, the scar from that, because they missed a few times. So at the end there I felt really sick because I was laying in the hospital bed and I was connected to all types of machines giving me insulin, giving me salt water and so on. But I felt okay, I didn't feel so bad at that time. So my life changed completely, from the happiest moment you can imagine with my ex-girlfriend, enjoying life, being young and healthy, to being at the hospital, being really sick, dangerously sick. 40 in blood sugar can be dangerous. And I couldn't do anything, just wait for more information. They were doing checks all the time, taking blood samples all the time, and they take some from here, maybe you see like from there, and they are really very painful. Like in the middle of the night they would come, and of course they miss one time or two, and then they would hit finally, but it was so painful, the blood samples from there, I remember. But I also remember they gave me some type of lemonade, Funlight raspberry, and I remember it tasted so good because it was without sugar, so they call it like diabetes lemonade. So at least I had that. I still remember that very well because it was this contrast between these super painful like blood samples from this area on the arm and then this very nice lemonade. So at least there was something. And of course I'm very blessed in Norway with the health system we have. They took really good care of me. But the moment my blood sugar got better, there were so many people at the hospital, I needed to stay in the stairway. So that was not so nice at that time with all the machines and everything in the stairway of the hospital. That was not the nicest. But I remember this one nurse, like there was many nurses and all of them were nice, but there was one that was especially nice to me. And it meant so much in that situation. She would even tell she had an ex-boyfriend that was also a diabetic and would share her experiences with him. And it meant the world to me, like this warmth in such a sensitive and tough situation as it was. But I think, you go through these phases of like shock and realization and adapting to a new life again. And I think I was pretty much in this shock phase in the beginning, like what is happening? Didn't really take it in. Cannot remember any feeling of sadness of the time. I think just shock. But the first realization, I guess, came when I read about being a diabetic and what it would mean for me in my life. And it's quite scary to read about. Like, you can die if your blood sugar get too low or too high. There are many symptoms when you get too low blood sugar. I hadn't gotten that yet, but that were quite scary to read about, like even passing out, losing control. And also having high blood sugar for too long can also be dangerous and can reduce definitely the quality of life, but also the length of your life. So when I was reading about all those details, I got a bit scared, to be honest. And at that time they also wanted to like induce low blood sugar on me to let me know how it would feel. So I remember they made me walk in stairs after taking some insulin. And I think it was down to 3.4 millimoles. And I started to feel some of those symptoms. And it was not a nice feeling, not a nice feeling at all. Now, of course, to the 16 years it's been now, I had a lot of other symptoms, like a much lower blood sugar than 3.4, but at least I got experiencing it a little bit. So there I was, like, in the hospital. My life had totally changed. And they were soon sending me home, but I was meeting some doctors for more information, learning to take insulin. There was none of these steroids monitors at that time. So I had to do the one in the finger every day, multiple times a day, which is not very pleasant, can be quite painful at times. And you don't know the direction of your blood sugar. So even though it says like it's 6 or it's 4, maybe it's good if the direction is up. Maybe it's bad if the direction is down. But at that time, I had no idea. And of course, I had to take insulin to every meal and sometimes also other times if it was too high. So something I needed to now do for the rest of my life, or at least for a long time. Maybe they will find a form of cure or something, but at that time, at least for many tens of years into the future. So it was a shock. And I remember like slowly it started to sink in, and my thoughts at that time was like, I have to fight it. I have to fight it. I will not let this break me, not let this change who I really am or my dreams. I have to fight this. It will be a burden for sure. I had no idea really yet what it would mean, but I knew it would mean something. But I also know that I would not give up my dreams, my wishes, or anything. I would fight this. I would learn to live with this. It was thoughts that was going through my head. I knew a bit of this from my grandfather and how much it affected his life negatively. And I said to myself, like, this is not the way it should affect me. I will learn to live with it. I would learn to control it. And I will become the master of this, and this not of me. So these were my thoughts at that time after getting sick. And in more episodes here, I would speak, of course, about more details about these things, but this is maybe a good introduction to when and how I got sick. 16-year-old, so I know a life without being a diabetic, and I know now over 16 years with being a diabetic. And it was a shock, but I went into it in a fighting spirit, and I wanted to learn how to live with it, do everything so I could still follow my dreams and not let this disease control me. See you in the next video, dear friends. Bye bye.